Welcome back everyone to Tanso GR86 Season 8. We're here for Week 2, Race 3 at the fantastic Brands Hatch circuit down in Kent in the UK. We've got the Indy configuration today, which is great and really suits the GR86s. The Grand Prix route goes up a long straight hill that these cars can struggle to go up at any speed, shall we say. The Indy circuit keeps it all compact, nice close racing. So that's exactly what we're expecting. Let's see how they line up on the grid and see what we've got from qualifying. And we've got Stuart Court out front, which is excellent. Ryan Dudley, then Mark Proctor, Christopher Smith, Dan Wirham's back in 5th. Sorry, we missed Sean Webber there in 5th. Dan Wirham's back in 6th, funnily enough. And Peter Woodmore in 7th. Ed Crowther in 8th. Then Jack Holland in 9th. Matthew Smedley in 10th. Followed by Dan Forster and Adrian Hadfield, which is looking really good, in 12th. Bradley Cormack in 13th. Lee Rylands 14th. Pierce Sonderup in 15th. David Swinhoe in 16th. Jonas Erveld in 17th. Sander Rook in 18th. John Johnston in 19th. Scott Kostrick in 20th. And Craig Corish rounds us off in 21st. So let's get the race underway. Race 1 of week 2, which is race 3 overall, and let's see how they go. And the engines are revving and they are ready to go, and the flag is down. Little wiggle at the back there, but Stuart Court leads them away. Is overtaken almost immediately by Ryan Dudley there, going into Paddock Hill Bend, and then coming up Howard's Hill into Druids for the first time. Ryan Dudley takes them through, followed by Stuart Court, Mark Proctor and Christopher Smith trade places further back. Matthew Smedley's lost it there and has gone all the way to the back. That puts Ryan Dudley up front, followed by Stuart Court really close on his tail now, Christopher Smith and Mark Proctor. So as they come round through Clark Curve onto the Brabham Straight for the first time, Ryan Dudley closely followed by Stuart Court there in the tow, and a little way behind them is Christopher Smith, Mark Proctor and Dan Wirham and Sean Webber having a bit of a fight. Stuart Court goes a bit wide there. Don't know whether he's going for the undercut. It was a bit of a drift as they go round Druids. Round Graham Hill Bend, up the Cooper Straight, and you can go really wide off the track there, which is really good. Loads of grip out there. Maybe you get some traction to come back in. Ryan Dudley is fending off Stuart Court as much as he can. Christopher Smith probably holding up Dan Wirham a little bit, I should think. Dan's usually used to fighting at the front here. Let's go and see how the battle's going with these two. Yeah, you can see Dan ducking and weaving, trying to get his way past Christopher Smith there, but he's closely followed by Mark Proctor and Sean Webber. Really close to this bunch here from 2nd back to 6th. Dan Wirham getting ever closer as they go round Paddock Hill, Clark Curve into the Brabham Straight. Dan Wirham trying to close Christopher down. Gonna dive up the inside, is he? Oh, he don't quite make it. That looked good though. Unlucky Dan. Guys just vying for position on this short track. Whoop! And Sean Webber decided to do a right-hander there off the track as they come down into Graham Hill Bend. Didn't quite make that. Puts him way back into 16th, unfortunately. Ryan Dudley and Sean Webber now trading places. Ryan Dudley and Stuart Court trading places, but Christopher Smith has snuck in and got up into second place, pushing Stuart back. Dan Wareham is now on Stuart's tail. Stuart Court comes up the curb there. He's gone on the inside of Christopher. Is he going to hold him? Round Druids. Down into Graham Hill Bend. And he does. He gets that place back. So, Ryan Dudley leads Stuart Court, Christopher Smith, Dan Wareham, Mark Proctor, Peter Woodmore now in the chase. There's not much between all six. In fact, they're more or less within a second or so from first to sixth, which is absolutely fantastic. Exactly what this track was made for. This brings these ever so close fighting, which is so exciting for us. Ryan Dudley takes a little shortcut off. Stuart Court goes wide. Is he going to do the old switcheroo? No, not quite close enough. Come down into Graham Hill Bend. No way past there, unfortunately. Look how wide out some of those go. Actually, Dan Wareham got an off track there. So, Stuart dives up onto Ryan, gives him a squeeze, and he's through. Is he going to hold it? Not quite. He's gone too wide. And Ryan Dudley's taken the inside, and Christopher Smith's in there, pushing as well. He's up alongside Stuart Court now. Ryan Dudley's out front. Is he going to be able to dive through? No, not quite. As they go down Haywards Hill and up to Druids. Ryan Dudley still holds it from Stuart Court, Christopher Smith, Dan Wareham, Mark Proctor and Peter Woodmore. All in on the chase. It's fantastic driving here. Dan Wareham now moves up into third. They've dropped back a bit there, Dan and Christopher Smith, with that little bit of a tussle. But Dan's got where he wants to be, ahead of Christopher Smith. I'm sure that means now that Stuart and Ryan Dudley are going to get chased down as they go side by side down Paddock Hill Bend. They come up into Druids. Stuart's got the inside. Yep, he does it. He takes Ryan as they go down into Graham Hill Bend. Stuart Court now ahead of Ryan Dudley, closely followed by Dan Wareham. Christopher Smith goes a little wide there, but manages to hold it. Peter Woodmore, now Mark Proctor is in on the chase. Exciting racing here from these guys. Stuart Court leads them round for another lap. We're only 7 minutes in, and there is not a lot between the top six, and even Jack Holland in 7th is starting to catch him up. As Ryan Dudley tries to find a way back past Stuart Court here at the front. Nothing doing right now. Christopher Smith is under pressure from Peter Woodmore and Mark Proctor further back. Jack Holland is now on the tail. Obviously encouraged by his teammate Peter. They come up around onto the Brabham Straight. Christopher Smith in fourth, leads Peter Woodmore, Mark Proctor and Jack Holland up into Druids. Further ahead we see Ryan Dudley is now back in front of Stuart Court, but Stuart tries to come on the inside and Graham Hill Bend doesn't quite make it and ends up with Dan Wirham really close on his tail here. Not giving us time to breathe. Dan gets a little bit of a push from the back from Christopher, managed to hold it. Sort of reminds me of touring cars of old, this does. Great racing, great close racing, guys. Ryan Dudley now stretching it out a bit. Stuart Court loves to go a bit wide there, he does. Down Paddock Hill Bend. Come round the bottom, up the Cooper Straight now. Around Surtees, up into Clearways. Ryan Dudley takes it from Stuart Court. Dan Wirham is now up the inside of Stuart. And he's taken him. Dan's now up into second, pushing Stuart back into third. So his teammates Ryan Dudley and Dan Wirham. On lap 12, they now lead it from Stuart Court, Christopher Smith, Peter Woodmore, Mark Proctor and Jack Holland. We now have 7 in the chase. All in with a chance here. Really exciting racing. Just absolutely nothing between them. Wonder if it was like this in their first race at Brands Hatch track in 1926. I think it might have been a bit slower than this. Whoa! And a little fishtail there from Dan Wirham. Oh, unlucky. Stuart Court and Dan Wirham get caught up there. No damage on these cars, so Dan Wirham gets fixed and gets back off, but that was really, really unfortunate. Well, that sorted it out for Ryan Dudley, isn't it? He's now got a 2.5 lead on Christopher Smith. Jack Holland has had a problem there now, back into 14th as well. So Ryan Dudley leads from Christopher Smith, who is under pressure from Peter Woodmore. They're strung out a bit now. God, what a change in a lap. All within a second or so of each other, and now from 1st to 7th there's like about 5 seconds. Absolutely incredible. Really spread out. So Ryan Dudley leads them round again. Second behind is Christopher Smith, who we're on board with here, following closely Peter Woodmore, who's doing an awesome job. Peter, we got Peter and Mark Proctor in the Pro-Ams, and you know, they're firmly up there and sticking with them, which is really good. We know how good Ryan, Dan Wirham and Stuart Court are. Well, these guys are really holding on in there. Stuart's way back in 5th now, which wasn't so way back a couple of laps ago, but it's now about 4 seconds or more behind the lead. As we watch Christopher Smith go through again. So Lee Rylands is trying to make a move on Dan Forster. He's getting up in there close. One of the closest battles we've got at the moment. Well, as they come down Paddock Hill Bend, Dan Forster is 3/10 ahead of Lee Rylands. Back out front, Ryan Dudley's been closed down by Christopher Smith. It's about half a second. I think there's going to be a couple of laps and they're going to be within touching distance and very close behind Christopher Smith. We've got Peter Woodmore and Mark Proctor. That could start to heat things up again. Just under 6 minutes to go. Ryan Dudley leads them through, Christopher Smith, Peter Woodmore and Mark Proctor. Then further 3 seconds back to Stuart Court. Lee Rylands is still giving Dan a run for his money. He goes up the inside and he takes him round Druids. Lee Rylands ahead of Dan Forster there. Whoop, whoop. A little bit of a twitch from Dan Wirham trying to fight his way back after that earlier coming together. It's really unfortunate. And further back here, and Jack Hollands on the tail of Ed Crowther, trying to fight his way back up the field. Join his teammate Peter Woodmore, who's further ahead in first. What's going on up ahead? Ryan Dudley and Christopher Smith getting ever so close now, and they're coming round onto the back of the tail enders. It's got to be Junus here, I should think. Yep, and he nicely lets them through. Well done by the new amateur there, Junus, letting the guys through so they can get on with their race at the front. Ryan Dudley from Christopher Smith, Peter Woodmore and Mark Proctor. That's your top four. It's one of Nigel Mansell's favourite tracks. I think it was 1985. He had his first Grand Prix win. So the Grand Prix is no longer held here. I think that was down to noise control or something. Got moved up to Silverstone. Although I can't imagine getting out of Brands Hatch onto the M25 nowadays. Must be an absolute mare. But it's such an iconic track. Somewhere every motorsport enthusiast in the UK really wants to race Brands Hatch. And this Indy circuit, the original circuit more or less, and they used to do push bike racing, cycling around here. Cyclists against runners. Whoa! There's Ryan Dudley and Christopher Smith go side by side, allowing Peter Woodmore to come back up, and Mark Proctor's joining in. So here we go, battle on. Ryan Dudley's got a little bit of a lead there, but Peter Woodmore's not letting Christopher Smith get away, and Mark Proctor's keeping them both honest. Yeah, Christopher's telling Ryan Dudley with his headlights what he thought of that earlier. Sure, Ryan will be going, come on then lad, you think you're good enough, come and take me. as they come through Graham Hill Bend once again. Ryan Dudley, Christopher Smith, just under half a second go. Christopher Smith goes very wide there for another off track. Peter Woodmore catches him up and gets almost within a tenth. Could this give us an advantage to Peter Woodmore as they come up the Brabham straight? Peter Woodmore now is going down the inside on Christopher Smith. He's not quite there. It looked good, but not quite having it. And further back, Dan Wareham has made some progress in 6th, but he's 8 seconds behind Stuart Court. Dan Forrester and Lee Rylands close on his tail. As he goes to touch out wide there, Dan desperately trying to make some time up. Ended up losing some instead. Going further back in the field, last year's AM winner Adrian Hadfield sitting back in 15th. Not such a good day for him so far. Not much doing around here. Further back, our two newcomers, Sandy Rook and Bradley Cormack, battle it out. Bradley trying to get on the back of Sander here as we come into the Brabham straight. He's a wiggling a bit. Here's Bradley, goes for the outside, nothing doing there though. And we've got some action up front, have we? Christopher Smith is, come on, let me pass, Ryan, let me go, with those headlights. Unfortunately, the headlights in and of themselves have no effect. And Ryan Dudley just stick to his line on the inside. Christopher's forced to go outside round Druidge, which just lets Peter Woodmore get ever closer. And we come up to some back markers here. Nicely stayed out of the way there. Thank you. Ryan Dudley holds off Christopher Smith once more. And when we come across the line, Ryan Dudley takes it from Christopher Smith, Peter Woodmore, Mark Proctor, Stuart Court. That's ever so close in the end, with Dan Wareham a good old 10 seconds behind him, which is unfortunate for Dan. Then Dan Forster, Lee Rylands, Sean Webber. Further back we've got Pierce Sunderup, Craig Cornish, Jack Holland, Ed Crowther, Matthew Smedley, Adrian Hadfield, David Swidnow, and across the line now, the last one is Bradley Cormack. So let's have a look at the results for race 3, heat 1 of week 2. We have Ryan Dudley, well done Ryan, holding it out front against Christopher Smith, followed by Peter Woodmore, Mark Proctor, Stuart Court, Dan Wareham in 6th, Dan Forster in 7th, Lee Rylands, Sean Webber. Then we have Pierce Sonderup, Craig Cornish, Jack Holland, Ed Crowther, Matthew Smedley, Adrian Hadfield, David Swinhoe, Bradley Cormack, Sander Rook. And then just further back from Sander we have Eunice, John Johnson and Scott Kostrick. Brings up the rear in 21st. Thank you for an exciting race. Thank you for watching. Your sponsors are Clark St James and Costa C Photography. Thank you ever so much to the sponsors. Right, shall we get ready for the next race, for race 4? So here we are again, guys. Race 4 at Brands Hatch Indy Circuit, the Tanso GR86 Season 8 Week 2. So we reversed the top 6 in the grid, which puts Dan Wirham up front, closely followed by his nemesis Stuart Court. Hopefully they can avoid a coming together this time. I think it all ended amicably after the race in the last one. So let's go and see how we get on here. We're going to get the race underway very shortly. Barney standing there patiently waiting for the timer to go. And Dan Wirham's out front, and here we go, and they're off. Dan Wirham, Stuart Court, Mark Proctor, Ryan Dudley takes Peter Woodmore as we come up into Paddock Hill Bend. Dan Wirham's out front this time. He's going to take some catching. Stuart Court, Mark Proctor, Ryan Dudley, Peter Woodmore, Christopher Smith. See that top 6 still really close together, and we've got some argy-bargy going on towards the back. Unfortunately, Adrian Hadfield and David Swinhoe has now dropped down quite a few places. Sean Webber dropped 14 places there. Craig Cornish up 9. So some winners and losers amongst that lot. Dan Wirham doing really well here. Leading around the Brabham Straight for the first time. Dan Wirham, Stuart Court, Mark Proctor. Close fighting from them with Ryan Dudley close in there as well. Bit further back to Christopher Smith now as they take it round. And we've got Matthew Smedley swapping some places here. There's quite a lot in this little group here with Craig surrounded. We've got Matthew Smedley behind him, Sandon in front of him. Close little group. Pierce Sander, a couple of tenths behind him, and Matthew Smedley in there in that group with Sean Webber further back. What's happened to Sean today? Not having a good showing of it. Down in 17th, unfortunately. Not great. And a bit of a group to get through there to get any places whilst we head back out front. We've got Dan Wirham, Stuart Court. Whoa, Ryan Dudley and Mark Proctor follow each other out wide there. Gives Christopher Smith a gap to get into, and he certainly does. Well, Stuart Court is hot on the tail of Dan Wirham. Dan slide in there as they come round into the Brabham Straight. Going to heat those tyres up, going to give him less grip. Stuart Court slightly ahead as they go across the line, but Dan Wirham's going to take it as they go down Paddock Hill Bend. Stuart Court loves that wide line there, up into Druids, whilst Dan keeps it tight all the way around. Ryan Dudley close behind, followed by Christopher Smith. Further back we've got Mark Proctor, Dan Forster, Lee Rylands, Jack Holland, Adrian Hadfield, Scott Kostrick makes your top 10. Dan Wirham now pulling out over half a second on Stuart Court. Stuart now under pressure himself, very much so, from Ryan Dudley. Ryan Dudley's going to take Stuart's line, is he? We know Stuart likes to go out there. He's not going to get a chance this time. He's going to have to stay on the inside. And he's got Christopher Smith tucked in behind him as well. As we go round Druids, he managed to hold on to it. Ryan Dudley's right in there. Oh, and he just lost it. He overcooked it. Luckily, the other guys managed to avoid Ryan there as he goes for couple of spins round, and Dan Forster, in all that mayhem, takes advantage and gets ahead of Mark Proctor. So that really has given Dan a bit of breathing space now. Dan Wirham, and then you've got nearly a second or 8/10 back to Stuart Court. Christopher Smith now 2.5 seconds behind, with Dan Forster and Mark Proctor the closest fight to them, with Lee Rylands and Jack Holland not so much back, and Mark and Dan trade places there. Very close little huddle, and we're on with Mark Proctor, Dan close up behind him. They're pushing hard here. Dan Forster trying to get as close as he can as they come onto the Brabham Straight. Mark Proctor under pressure from Dan Forster, and closely followed by Lee Rylands. Nothing doing here, it's all becoming a bit of a train. And they spread out further as they come up into Druids now. Up front we've got Stuart Court trying to put Dan Wirham under pressure, and Dan takes it wide yet again there. Another off track there. Loses a bit of traction, which means Stuart is right on his tail. Come round into the Brabham Straight. Doesn't seem to matter what Dan does, he cannot get away from the sticky tape of Stuart Court. It's like he's on a bungee cord attached to the back of his car. Every time he tries to pull away, Stuart's just there in the rear views as always. Bit neater through there this time for Dan, which means he maintains the lead as they come around Clark Curve into the Brabham Straight. Meanwhile, Mark Proctor's made a move further back on Christopher Smith, but they are 4 seconds behind the leaders here. They'll take us over the start-finish line. As we go down Paddock Hill Bend, both of them take the wider line. Around Druids, and look how tight Dan manages to keep that. Fantastic acceleration out of there. And he puts another couple of attempts between him. So further back we've got Scott Kostrick trying to put pressure on the back of Pierce Sonderhook. Oh, and we've got some offs in front. That's Lee Rylands gone a cropper. Scott Kostrick, Adrian Hadfield behind him. Scott's now trying to charge up behind Pierce Sonderhook. Back out front, Stuart Court's just taking the lead around Druids from Dan Wirham. Fantastic manoeuvre there. I don't think it'll be long before Dan tries to get some of that back. Stuart Court's now pulled out a 1.2 second, or nearly a second and a half lead over Dan Wirham now. Wonder if that's a story of tyres. Mark Proctor 3 seconds back there. We're right stretched out here whilst Further in, we'll see Scott Kostrick has had a little problem here. Oh, did he get a touch as Pierce went through? Not quite sure. Oh, he managed to get out of the way. Close one for Adrian. Adrian closes his eyes. Oh, whoa! And then Ed Crowther gets. Oh my! Matthew Smedley, I think, may have T-boned Scott Kostrick there as he rejoined the track. Not great there, unfortunately. Crikey. They'll have something to say about that in the driver's room afterwards. Anyway, Stuart Court, a second and a half ahead of Dan Wirham, who's 3 seconds ahead of Mark Proctor, and then we've got Christopher Smith as we're 10 minutes in. Gives us 15 minutes left to go. One of the closest fights at the moment is this one between Mark Proctor and Christopher Smith. Still thinking about that T-bone. Incredible. Anyway, Mark Proctor under pressure. Christopher Smith trying to close him down. Handy driver is Christopher. Do everything he can to get this place. As Dan trying but struggling to close the gap between him and Stuart. Mark Proctor's sitting there. 3 seconds behind, trying to fight off the advances of Christopher Smith. Doesn't look like he's having much of a... Oh! As Dan Forster gives it a bit of a wiggle behind these. And we're all pretty stretched out between the field. Let's go and have a look a bit further back. See some of these newer guys, see how they're getting on. Sander here, trying to get in touch with Peter Woodmore. Nothing really doing there, don't think, for Sander. Peter Woodmore back in 16th after such a good showing in race 1. Not managed to replicate it here. And Sander trying to desperately close him down. As Peter Woodmore's on the back of Matthew Smedley here, but can't quite get in touch for a pass. Meanwhile, Christopher Smith is all over the back of Mark Proctor, trying to force the guy into a mistake so that he can get round. Up into Druids. Round they go, down Graham towards Graham Hill Bend. Nothing doing there just yet for Christopher. He's pushing hard, but not hard enough. Not quite going to happen yet. So, Stuart Court goes across the start finish with just over 10 minutes to go. Starting to come up on back markers now. Going to find a way through carefully. Stuart Court now got 2 seconds up on Dan Wirham, 3 seconds on Mark Proctor. Coming up close behind these guys. They're some way behind. I believe this is John Johnston. Well, JT, stay out of the way, almost certainly, and let Stewart come through. And he does. Nicely tucks in on the inside, lets Stewart court and Dan Wirra through. Nice and safely done. So Pearce now on the back of Sean Webber, trying to put some pressure on. Adrian Hadfield close behind them. Pearce desperately trying to hold on the back, but I think the gap's growing, and we go forward to Jack Holland as he's putting the pressure on Dan Forster, trying to find a way through here. Goes up the inside. Is he going to do it? Is he going to complete the move? He does. Jack Holland gets through on Dan Forster, going into Druids, down into Graham Hill Bend. Good manoeuvre. So just under 10 minutes to go. Stewart caught. Second and a half back to Dan Wirra. Mark Proctor 3 seconds behind as they come across the line. Coming up to their next back marker. Looks like that's Matthew Smedley. They're going to come up on now. Mark Proctor still being closed down by Christopher Smith here. Christopher's not been able to make any headway in the last few laps, but that mistake from Mark may have just let him through. Yes, it has. Christopher Smith finally gets through, and I think we'll see him disappear now. Christopher Smith will go running off as they come across the line. Stewart Court, Dan Wirra, Christopher Smith, Mark Proctor, Jack Holland 4.5 seconds back. Mark Proctor, all credit to him, trying to stay in touch with Christopher Smith. Doing his best. Stewart Court out front. See a back marker there. Matthew Smedley, if you think. Yep. So Matthew's going to have Stewart Court and Dan Wirra to deal with very shortly. Coming up behind pretty quick. This is their only danger, really. These two really good drivers. Left to their own devices, they'll just run away with it. But getting through the back markers is part of the race. And you can't rely in a multi-talented race like this. You can't rely on them to do the right thing all the time. Matthew is in the AMS after all. The two guys who are about to cross him are in the pros. In fact, they've got a few AMs to get through before the end of the race. So they're going to have to do it carefully and considered. Stewart is chasing him down. Mark Proctor's still staying in touch further back with Christopher Smith, which is really good. I would have thought Christopher would have been off by now. He's not making as much headway as I expected. Further back we see Eunice under pressure from Ed Crowther. Ed goes round the outside and takes Eunice in Graham Hillbend as they come round up the Cooper Straight and around the corner into Clearways. Not only did Ed take him there, he's set up quite a sizable gap as well, which is really well done. Right, Christopher Smith still fighting away here, trying to keep Mark Proctor at bay. He has stretched it out a bit, but not much. Stewart takes us across the start-finish line with about 5 minutes to go now. Stewart's given us some really exciting racing over the last few weeks, as has Dan Wareham. Obviously, it's not always been the fairy tale finishes, but it has led to some really close fights that we've enjoyed watching. Hopefully Matthew Smedley will make this nice and easy. And Stewart gives him a flash. Yeah. Gonna say Matthew could have made that a little easier, but Stewart has got some time to play with, and he'll definitely get him on the Brabham straight anyway. Just patient and wait. As I say, this is the danger zone now. After Matthew, we've got Sander and David Swinhoe up front, and they are fighting. So that is going to make for a pass and a half. Matthew Smedley is certainly getting in the way here. He'll be having his spotter shouting blue flag, blue flag. And yeah, Stewart's now lost down to 1.7 from 2 seconds. Stuck behind him. Well, I know it's the faster car job to get past, but Matthew certainly hasn't helped him out. And with the fight up ahead, it could start to become a problem. 3 minutes to go. Surely Matthew's going to move aside now. No, he doesn't. Well, as long as he can maintain the pace, I suppose that's what matters. It's the faster car's job. Stewart, almost went for a dive down the inside. Matthew did go wide. He's fighting back. He should not be doing this. That is not on. Matthew Smedley has now let Dan Wareham back into the race. He shouldn't be fighting that hard. This is now he's got no race against Stewart and Dan. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some words about this afterwards. Stewart's a really good racer. He's not going to stand for it. He's definitely not. And they're going to end up bullying him out. And poor old Dan becomes the loser. And I think Matthew, we've sort of lost it here now. Quite what's happened, but let's go. I think the problem is, as oh, it's all a bit of argy-bargy back there. Sorry guys, not sure what happened to the camera. Let's just go and have a look again. So, Stuart Court catches the back of Matthew, then comes down the inside, and that's then caused Matthew to go off, and then poor old Dan gets another smack from Mark Proctor. Like, totally unintentional. Not great. I know Dan's not going to be happy about that. We'll go back up to Stuart Court. Now, 4-second lead over Christopher Smith, Mark Proctor and Dan Wareham. Sorry about the cameras there. I think because we were tracking Matthew Smedley, I think he got DQ'd and the cameras lost the tracking. But just to say, guys, you know, especially in a multi-talented race where you've got pros, pro-ams and ams, you've got to respect that the pros are out there fighting hard and fast at the front, and if you're right at the back, you've got to give way, especially when there's nothing on. Stuart Court comes across the line to take the win in the second race at Brands. Christopher Smith and Mark Proctor, good fight between those two, nice and clean. And I've got to say, poor old Dan Wareham, probably rightly aggrieved. Jack Holland, Dan Forrester, Ryan Dudley and Sean Webber. And then further back we've got Pierce, Adrian Hadfield, Lee Rylands, Craig Corish. Peter Woodmore in 13th, that's good. Moved himself up. Junus, then Ed Crowther. We've got Sander and David Swinhoe coming over the line as well. Great race, guys. Let's get those results up on screen. So, Stuart Court, followed by Christopher Smith, Mark Proctor, Dan Wareham, Jack Holland, Dan Forrester, Sean Webber, Pierce Cinderhook, Adrian Hadfield, good race by him, up in 9th, Lee Rylands, and that's your top 10, followed by Craig Corish, Peter Woodmore, Eunice Airfield, Ed Crowther, Ryan Dudley, Sander Roke, David Swinhoe and John Johnson. That gives us our lot there. Thank you everyone. Hope you enjoyed that. It was quite eventful. Even though there wasn't much close racing, the ending certainly added some spice. Not that Stuart and Dan probably see it that way, but it was entertaining to watch all the same. Thank you to our sponsors Clark St James and Costa C Photography. Thank you to John Johnson for organising the league. Until next time, speak soon.